The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashares. And these are the old covers. Yeah, let's talk about this book. I think I would have liked this more if I was younger. This is the first of 4 books. So the book starts from Carmen's perspective. And then we go to third person, and then we have letters at the end of the chapter, which are super fun, of the girls just writing to each other. One thing, the transitions between characters kind of took getting used to. I would read like a whole page and then be like, wait, we're talking about someone else, what? Before we start talking about the plot, let's talk about the characters. Okay, there's 4 girls. There is Lena, Carmen, Tibby, Bridget. Carmen is just another version of myself. Carmen's biggest quality, especially in the first book, is her dealing with all this anger that she has. And then Bridget was so exciting to read about. In the movie, she is Blake Lively. It was a great choice. I imagined her while I was reading it. You know, she's so pretty. She's not scared of anything, and she goes after the guy. Lena was just like this quiet, beautiful girl, and she's like discovering parts of her past, and she's staying with her grandmother. I feel like we didn't get that much of Lena. Tibby was such a great character. I don't know if they said it in the book, but I know in the movie she has blue hair, which is so cool. I've always wanted blue hair. She is always filming, and I thought that was so cool. And Tibby stays at home, so that's kind of like her being upset she doesn't get an adventure, but she meets Bailey, and that was an adventure for her. Tibby's kind of this like negative person. She gets like caught off guard because she meets this girl Bailey, who she learns has leukemia. Tibby went through insane character development. So these girls find the jeans, the magical traveling pants that fit them all, and it was just kind of a really cool symbol of how different they all are, because they all have different looks and shapes and sizes, and then they all have different interests and different family situations, but the pants like symbolize that they all what they all have in common, which is their loyalty to each other. So Lena meets Kostos, also known as Couscous. They weren't like Romeo and Juliet, like in the movie, so I was just like, okay, that's cool. Without that, we didn't really get much of a action going on between them. And there was really no moment that I felt like Lena fell in love with him, and she really just like saw him around, and then she's like, I'm in love with Kostos. And I was like, since when? So that was kind of frustrating to me because I wasn't really following. She just like hated him, and then the whole fight happened, which didn't really do anything for like the plot. It was just like a really awkward situation with their grandpas like hitting it out. And then like on her last day, she's like, okay, fine, I'm kind of like into him. And then they're like kind of a thing. So I don't know, it was kind of interesting. I didn't really follow what was going on there, but you know, he seems like a good guy, I guess. Like, okay, so Bridget is at soccer camp, which I cannot relate to at all. That was kind of interesting. She's like, oh yeah, I love running around and being sweaty. I was like, okay, you do you. And then she meets Eric. When Bridget like sneaks into his cabin, I was like literally screaming. And then the second time, I think it was the second time, they had like a moment, and then he thought he was dreaming, and he just kind of like touches her hair or whatever. Now, like nothing really happens, right? But I was like screaming, okay? So Carmen, she goes home to find this like perfect like white family that her dad chose instead of her and her mom. And everyone thinks Carmen's crazy and she's overreacting. The dress fitting, when they just ordered this like tiny dress for Carmen, like they didn't even meet her yet, so but they're just like, oh, she's a girl, she's tiny. So they order this tiny dress, Carmen puts it on. Of course she has this big butt, and she's just like, and that was just, and they were so rude to her. And then the daughter's so annoying. The daughter really doesn't have a personality. She's just kind of a droid in this book. Krista's her name. I felt like she would be so cute and fashionable. But other than that, I did not like Krista. And then Paul I pictured as Evan Peters, and I just realized it now. I did not realize I was picturing Paul as Evan Peters. But I really like Paul, not only because he was Evan Peters, but I just like the quiet aspect. And when Carmen realized, she's like, I see my dad once a year. Paul's dad is an alcoholic, and he sees him every month. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's a really good point. I was like, what? And then the point when Carmen realizes that she's mad at her dad because she's not able to like say that for a while, she just, you know, puts the blame onto the new family because she has this perfect ideal image of her dad. So the point where Carmen realizes that, like, okay, I'm mad at my dad, like, that was a big deal. I cried a little bit when Carmen went to the wedding and she wore the traveling pants. The whole book, they were wearing the pants when like a big event happened in the story, but it wasn't necessarily a good thing. So at the end, when Carmen was wearing the traveling pants and she went to her dad's wedding, and then they took photos with her and she's just wearing the jeans, I love that part, and I love that the pants just like were in a happy ending after all, and Carmen really deserved that happy ending. And I think it took a lot for her to like accept that her dad has a new family and that doesn't really have to change anything between them. And then the phone call with her dad, and then they were crying. So like I kind of had these like roles for each character, like if they were for real life. So Carmen is me. Lena's kind of like, Lena could be like a sister, like we could get along. Like Lena's kind of just like, she's my girl. Bridget's kind of like who I want to be. Bridget is fearless and adventurous. And then Tibby's kind of who I am on the outside with all of the like the things she does with movies, and she's kind of obnoxious and she likes to style her hair and she's really attached to her hamster. So when the girls all come back together and then they share their experiences, and it was kind of new for them because remember it was their first summer apart. So they all like went through experiences that they didn't witness with the other girls. So that was kind of like new for them, and like they were growing up, you know, because they were doing things independently, starting their own life path. It kind of shows how they're like growing up, and I really like that part of the story, and I like how they start out at like 15 years old because that's pretty young. I can't wait to read the next 3 books. If you want to see more, you can just like or comment. If you want, I'll do a talk on your favorite book. Just tell me what it is. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought. I'll see you next week.